you love the effort of what the process asks from you, or vice versa, that it's become a fabric of who you are. And without it, you feel, I don't want to say incomplete, but you just don't like it. You've become very comfortable and confident with waking up every day, doing the work, being a part of something bigger, and feeling that return of, I feel good about myself, I feel healthy, and I'm proud of myself.
Good morning, my brother.
Hey, 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 welcome aboard. It's March 2nd. We are already in March. We are about to end Q1 of 2020. It's March 2nd, 2020. Welcome aboard. Crushing Iron Podcast 352. 352 episodes deep, coming to you twice a week, usually on Mondays and Thursdays. But hey, when something comes up, we still find a way to get it in. We try to be consistent. We try to deliver a conversational style format that's open, no ads, no sponsors, and we cover all things triathlon. We also cover all things life, and occasionally we bring outlines. We bring rigid, organized, outlines for us to go by, where you'll need to get out your pen and paper, your legal pad, take notes, and go for it. And today, from what I'm expecting, is one of those days. We traditionally just let it fly. We go through what we're thinking about, feeling, going through personally with training and racing, what our athletes are going through, and just usually try to navigate how training and life kind of intersect and complement each other, sometimes take away from each other, how they can provide avenues for us to improve ourselves as just not just triathletes, but as people and humans on this planet. So we usually just talk that through, and Mike and I, as your co-host, do that. But like I said, on occasion, Mike slams me with a rigid outline where I am instructed to adhere to all the. It happens like once every 6 months, and when it does, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride that is today. Is hey, but no, you sent me an email this morning, and I dig it, man. I think we've done a few that are kind of similar to this. And this might not be quite the clickbaitish cast that we had last week. That we got some. Told us we should have more clickbait podcasts, because those are usually the opposite of
Yeah.
clickbait. It's like, do you really want to listen to this cast? Because if you do, you better be bought in, and you better be patient, and you better be ready to negative split. But no, I think this is a great topic. And but first off, as usual, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was outstanding.
Yeah, outstanding. That's a
Yeah, we had some pretty good weather on here, but I
we,
did a
we
lot of housework again. I was painting, did a little yard work, but you know, you know the drill, man.
Listen. We got out a little bit on Saturday, and then quite a bit yesterday. It was really, really nice here this weekend as well. And then back as regularly scheduled rain and gloomy weather here for the next 3 days. You're probably having in Nashville too. I'm here in Chattanooga, but hey, the weather is inching its way closer to springtime, and I'm not sure what the official spring date is, but I can tell it's almost here. I could do without the rain. It's not my favorite. It's frankly it's annoying. But actually, we got a little snow here on Friday. I did a long trail run Friday, and I was running and went up to Lookout Mountain. And usually they get some like other type of weather versus what we get down closer to downtown in Chattanooga. But it was snowing up there, like snowing pretty good. Which
That's what you
was
get for running in the mountains,
I
man.
know, but it was actually kind of awesome. It was kind of one of those days where, and I won't take too long to hear the story, but we all have those days where you get up and you have these like really grand plans of like, today is gonna be the day. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
get up,
know 'em.
I'm gonna be organized, I'm gonna knock it out. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get up. So my plan was I've been doing my long runs on the weekends, but one of the reasons I've just kind of stuck to trail running and running this year is because I want to open up those weekends for the family. And as my runs have gotten longer, I'm going to attempt a 50 miler at the end of this month. So my runs are getting longer. It's like, you know what? I'm going to try and get up really early on Friday and knock it out, and then have my work day and kind of free up my weekend. And so, I did like the whole preparatory, schedule of Thursday night, had my, long run meal, got all my stuff out the night before, organized, packed my stuff, got my drinks ready, was like, I'm ready. I am ready to go. I'm going to knock it out of the park, and then wake up Friday morning, And I get my bag packed, and I'm halfway there, and Allie texts me, and she's like, because it's pretty early, and Hayden doesn't go to school till like 7 or 7:30, and she was like, you've got my keys. And I was like, of course I do. Of course I've got your keys. And I was like, well, you know what? Just let me park and then let me unpack. So I went to look at my mountain. I parked at the bottom. It's only like 10 or 15 minutes from my house, so it's not like, a huge trip. So I get there and I was like, just meet me here, after. I was like, you got a spare key, use that, and then come over here, and grab your wallet and your purse and stuff, and then do whatever you need to do today. And then I get dressed, get my pack on, pick up my headlamp,
Dead.
dead. I was like, you gotta be kidding me right now. This is like the day. So I texted her back and I was like, listen, I'm heading home. You need it, because apparently she was going to need it anyway, because she was really, like, frankly, just totally out of gas, which is totally not like her. She fills up with like a half tank left. And came back, and so I went all the way back to the house and then hang out there for a minute to help get them out of the house to get Hayden to daycare. And by then, I took the headlamp, and then on the way to the trail, the sun's up. I'm like, I don't even need this right now. I'm not even gonna need a headlamp. So it was kind of one of those mornings where not usually, but oftentimes you're like, screw it, I'll just do it tomorrow. And like this obviously isn't my morning, it isn't my day. It's been a rough start. Things aren't going really well. We forgot to like put out. They do free like dump pickup here in Chattanooga. Like if you have a bunch of stuff you just don't want, you can schedule a free pickup, and they'll just put it by her and they just come pick it up. We totally forgot to do that the night before. And so Allie's like trying to maneuver in the dark, like doing all the stuff where I'm not at home, and she has like a stress fracture right now in her foot. So she's got this boot, and she's doing this all. So come home, help her with that. Anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go and do it and see what happens. End up having like one of my best runs of the year, and then up in the mountains, the snow was falling, and it was like, man, I was like, this is such a cool experience, and I would have totally missed it had I just been like, yeah, it's just one of those days. I'm just going to pack it in and do it tomorrow. And I was actually just really thankful that I actually did it, because it was really a neat, fun experience to kind of run up there in the snow and be out there totally alone. But anyway, that was my random story for the day. Let's see, yes, my weekend was good too, but I'm ready for sunshine. I'm ready for longer sun hours in terms of the daylight. And hey, you know what? Other than that, life's pretty good. I
Yeah.
didn't do yard work this weekend though.
Well, those long days are coming, man. You can feel it. That's a good story, man. I think it's a good one because so many of us kind of get into that spot. We talk about that all the time. I always talk about it as transitions. It's like you go from doing one thing in life to the next, whether it's swimming to biking or getting your shoes on and going to run up a mountain or getting your head on. And more often than not, when we just push through it, it changes the outlook on things. And it's pretty amazing how that happens. It's just like what is that Yogi Berra saying? Half of life is 90% showing up or something like that.
Because I really had no excuse to not do it. Like I still had
Yeah,
plenty
that's
of
the
time.
thing,
Like
right?
of course today, but you get like we always have that. Like we always have these like grand plans of, things going perfectly, and then as soon as it doesn't, there's no reason why it still can't go great. Like it still can't. And I was already kind of nervous because I have tweaked my ankle twice in the last couple of weeks. I was really like just kind of I didn't know how it was going to go. Like I skipped a couple of runs last week to kind of be extra cautious, and then I ran an easy like 6 miles on Thursday and made kind of a decision. I was like, you know what? I really think it's my shoes, and my feet aren't just flat. They're almost like worse than flat. I mean, like
Clown shoes.
they are, dude. They're just terrible. And so I was like, you know what? I think I need like a better pair of trail shoes. So I went Thursday and got a pair of shoes and some inserts, which I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not a big insert guy.
It's
I was
old
like, you know
man
what?
stuff right there,
I
man.
know, dude. It's like my arches, my life is just ending. My arches are falling. I need inserts, and
Dude, when
uh,
you start wearing heel cups, you're gonna really
I
know what
know,
I feel like.
well, I was like, hey, I think I need a new pair of shoes, man. And so the first thing he brought out was those like, bright white New Balances that like, what? He was like, I can tell, man, you're getting up there. You probably need these. And then if you buy this today, you get 20% off the fanny pack, and you can take that. And it's got extra storage for your walk, cassette tapes, and you can listen to, whatever you want to listen to, the Bee Gees. And so, but anyway, so I wore, like I ended up running 21 miles in like brand new, never worn shoes and new inserts. And it felt incredible. Like it was easily the best run I've had in I don't know, like in 6 months. But I think the point was, it's just like, I still could have done it, but my first thought was, my plan, even though I haven't even taken like one run stride and my run hasn't even started, you do have those thoughts of, you know what, this isn't just going to work out, because a few things get in your way, but that's just life. It's like just a microcosm of how we always have these plans to do things, and then life shows up and reminds you daily, oftentimes hourly, that you're not the boss, and the best you can do is just react to it and see what happens. And so I was, and I'm not saying that I always do it, because sometimes I do. I don't mail it in. I'm like, you know what, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I'll do it later. And then the next thing you know, life further gets its claws into you, and it's like, yeah, you're not going to do that. You missed your opportunity to take advantage of what you wanted to do today, and but did it, and was able to have a really awesome day. And then my weekend was great. So yeah, it was overall awesome. But yeah, I think just a good um, lesson and reminder for me specifically to, best laid plans, they are, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth with life. That's not really Muhammad Ali's quote, but yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Mm.
I'm gonna prop
Well,
my
I
feet
think,
up, relax, and let you roll with the rest of the podcast.
yeah. So, I've been going to this meditation group, and this has been a funky year for me. Start of the year, of course, my father passed away on New Year's Eve, and I went through a long 6 to 8 weeks of that before it. And I just have been. That's why I think that's a good story you brought up, because I've been in and out of this, like, I don't want to call it a funk. Maybe it is a little bit, but it's just sort of this introspective place where I'm just thinking about stuff like, all right, like the meanings of things and what I'm doing and where it's leading me and all that. So I've been going to this meditation group, and the other night, the guy really had this awesome, what I would call almost as an outline for addressing everything and life in general, but I thought it would apply to training. And because the one thing about training is I think most of us think that if we're in physical shape, that's the point, right?
Hmm.
We try to get in shape so we can do these long races and these grueling things and power through them. So we're always concerned about numbers and being in shape and being able to just do phenomenal feats. So we also, you and I talk a lot about being the mental side of things and how to approach life and treat your, be kind to yourself and listen to your body. And so, there's this whole other thing about being physical and then being mental in shape. And I think a lot of people get into those two areas, but I don't think we can fully be free, trained to our best ability, and be as successful as we want to be unless we throw in sort of that spiritual element and have that kind of higher purpose and things like that. And this isn't about religion or anything like that. I just think it's a really great approach to life and great approach to training. So he went through these 5 things that are all connected, and as they start, the first one lines up and sort of creates the second one and enhances the first one and things like that. And then they kind of like cascade into each other. And it seems to make a lot of sense to me, especially the way he was describing it. And I sent you, some top line thoughts on it and notes. But the outline is basically the first part is faith, and then you have effort, and which translates into mindfulness, and mindfulness gives you focus, and then all of those combined give you wisdom. And I think that's an important. It's sort of that big picture thing, right? That I think is important to keep an eye on, because we're all just thinking about intervals and all these other little things like that. But is what we're doing something that feels right, not only for our body, not only for our mind, but for our overall health and wellness kind of thing. So with that, I just wanted to throw it out to you. I'm glad you like it. I think that I don't think this is any kind of rigid outline. like we were talking about, but
No, it's not. And it's definitely not. Again, like if it's your first time listening, like this is not a podcast where we claim to give you the 5 fastest ways to drop 20 minutes off your 70.3 time with these specific workouts and a few purchases along the way by our sponsors. We don't do any of that, but I mean, I think most of the times, like, yeah, we cover a lot of the technical aspects of triathlon, but triathlon and endurance sports are just a very, very small portion of our life. And I think a lot of these things that we can, or a lot of what we try to do here on the podcast, at least, and why we started it, was to have these discussions that we'd be having on our own, just you and I, without any kind of an audience, but that these are a lot of the things that people think about and don't talk about because they either feel like they're irrelevant, or they feel like it's just them, or they can't find a place or a podcast or a forum or a team or a community that is comfortable addressing these types of things. And that's what we've always done, and we hope to continue to do. But no, it's definitely not a rigid outline. I think it's great because I think all these things, faith, effort, mindfulness, focus, and wisdom, like, again, like, they're just, it's all part of like how we live. And there's so many things we can do with triathlon and training and endurance sports that they're great analogies for each other. And so I love the first one. I think, and I'll go ahead and read what you have. It says faith. When most people talk about faith, it tends to be of a blind faith in something. But in this case, he referred to it as a buy-in. I think buy-in is gigantic. Buy-in is one of those things where, and coaches look for this too, like they want athletes to buy in, but buying in is faith and faith slash belief. And sometimes you don't know what comes first. You believe it, so you have faith in it, or you have faith, so therefore you believe. And that goes with training, that goes with coaching, and I also think, like, the biggest one, like you gave an example, is like, a friend tells you something that is right several times, so you now have a strong faith in that friend's advice. But in the case of training, it means faith in your plan, in your direction, and maybe your coach, or how you're out self-coaching yourself. But I think faith, as we internalize it in terms of endurance sports, is that when we commit to something that's so great, that so many people find that's impossible, that the endeavor and the journey that you're going on, so many people think to them is impossible. Like, which is, a great example of how there's so many things in life, whether it's religion or other things, where you believe something and you have faith in something other people find crazy, or just totally like irrational, or they just can't wrap their brain around. There are certain things that I have like zero, like, I can't wrap my brain around the people who create codes to like write these like insane computer programs like that. I literally can't wrap my brain around doing that because I just don't have any knowledge of it. But I believe obviously there are people that can do it. But in training and in life, like, you have to have specific, I think everyone has specific faiths for themselves. Like, for me, I have I have a belief and a faith in myself that if I simply just do my best in certain areas that I feel like I'm strong in, then things will work out. But I think we all, you have to have some kind of a faith, and I think it's a healthy, and I think it's appropriate to express that. Like, I think some people might see faith can oftentimes, when it's kind of combined with ego, or um, feeling, threatened, that you have to express that faith in like a cocky way, or you're being too confident you can do this. But I think we all need that faith in ourselves that we can do this, and we truly believe in ourselves that we can accomplish these things. Because without that, I think your journey is going to be not only lonely, but oftentimes you'll head down the wrong path, looking for ways to reaffirm what you want to know but don't believe in.
yeah, it's I was going to refer back to, because the last one is wisdom, and I think a lot of this kind of thing, wisdom is basically, you can't really gain wisdom without experience, right? So, I mean, that's the point of this. So I think a lot of times it's like, that was a great point about, when people get into doing, oh, hey, I'm going to do an Ironman. And I remember vividly when I first signed up, it was like impossible in my mind. So how do you get past that point? And this applies to people that are trying to get their PR and things like that too. I mean, I've been through these races several times, and right now it's like that's one of the reasons I'm exploring this, because I feel like it's a time for me to have a different kind of faith, or find a different kind of faith in the belief that I can go faster, that I can be stronger, that I can be healthier. And I've been facing these questions a lot lately. So I think it's all relative is the point. You know, it's just it's the faith in where you want to go and the belief that it's going to get there. And then somebody, whether it be you as a coach, or, you know, people that have been there before that you believe in, to give you the right direction. And, you know, because faith arises out of seeing and knowing for yourself. And that's what inspires the outpouring of energy. And if you believe in it, that's the thing, is like, I think I can do it. And I think this is, and it's really important for me to think about it as, I believe this is the right path, because sometimes I struggle with that too. You know, like I get into my body gets into these contorted, twisted, kind of like tight spaces. And I'm like, man, this doesn't feel right all the time. So I have to step back, and because we just want to feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate. Like you're saying, that run felt great, you know. And I think we want to feel good. And it's like, I think so many people me included, get caught up in this sort of quote unquote rat race of training without a big picture of what we're doing it for and how it's going to make us feel better.
Well, I think also, like, and maybe we can give an example. Like, what is something, or I can go first, but like, what's an example of faith that you have in your own training and in your own triathlon endeavors, of whether it's training or racing, that you have faith in, that you can do, or that you're, because I think we all have this. Like, we just feel like we can do this. Like, we can do something. It can be specific. It can be general. It can be based around a time. It can be based around a speed. It can be based around an effort. What is something for you that you have just this internal faith in? And I think everyone needs this. I think it's one thing that we all need to fall back on to be successful. I'll go first since I brought the question up. But
Okay.
there's to give me a minute. But I have faith in that. Like, when I think about doing these really long runs that I had this year, that I've never done before, that I know very little about, like triathlon. Like, I've done it. I've raced a ton. I've been doing this sport for such a long time. I work with so many athletes. Like, I generally know always what to expect, or I've been there and I've done that. Obviously every race is different, every athlete is different, but for the most part, there aren't many surprises anymore. Like, I know it. But with this, I don't know a lot. I have zero idea how my body is going to respond to running 50 miles. I have zero idea how my, the what my mind and my body will feel like those last 3 hours. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Like in triathlon, I could basically give, like, within like 10 to 15 minutes of how long, what's going to take, what's going to be over. But when I think about how I can feel and be successful, because I think we all need to go into races and events and the training blocks, or working with someone as with some kind of a reserved, like, you don't want to be cocky. And I think a healthy fear is a good thing, because I think it oftentimes, as long as it's a healthy fear, it helps brew up like a good, in the same words, like a healthy respect for what you're doing. And so you treat it with respect, and you're specific about things, and you see less room for error, so you pay attention. But for me, like, when I think about, all right, how do I feel like I can be successful in this event that I've never done before, that's the first time, and I have no idea what to expect. I'm going to go do this event alone. I'm not going to have any pacers for the 50 miles, because they don't allow it. And just because we're doing our huge team camp that following week, I'm going to be down there alone. I'm not going to have a crew. What can I do or believe or tell myself that's gonna put me in the right mind frame to go into this race with confidence, outside of the training that I've done? And it's that I have faith that I can just work hard, and that I'm resilient. I've gone through a crap ton in my entire life that I've had to be resilient for. That no matter what happens, I can keep going. I know that I can keep going. I feel that about myself through the races that I've done in the past, through my athletic career. I have never been one who's been really, really good going 100% all out that I can barely breathe, but I can go 90%. And once I get to that pain level, I know, because I've told myself before, I can handle this amount of being uncomfortable until it's over. And that over could be anything, but I know that I can do that. I know that about myself because I've experienced it, and I have faith in that. And so I think we all need those experiences to fall back on, and just that, belief. And again, none of it is about a result. None of it's none of it is faith that if I have my best race I can place, because I have no ambition of doing any of that. But I know, and I have this faith with me, just as a person, that I'm resilient, and that I can hold on, and I can take whatever's going to be given to me, because I feel like I've shown that to myself.
Yeah, man. It's like this thing. Like I said in the beginning, kind of. What sounds like it's going on there is you have faith in things that you have gained wisdom about, right?
Right.
So you've gone through it. You know that. Like I know my Ironman times have all been about this similar, very similar, and I have faith that I can do that easily. That's just not a question in me anymore. But then we might as well move on to the second one because I'll incorporate my thing in here is that the effort is number two, and that's where I'm struggling to put in that effort because I don't know if that's because I haven't clearly defined a new why or I don't have faith in what's going on exactly right now. I haven't seen that vision or I don't have clarity about what I want to put the effort towards. I'm speaking specifically about training. And,
Hmm.
this can be because I've been through it. It's kind of that like it's a little bit of been there, done that in my mind right now, and I don't think that's true because I know that I want to keep going, and I mean, honestly, I do have a late season full in my head right now, and I want to do that. It's just a matter of, but I'm not pressuring myself into that either. I just have to figure out and find uh, that effort. The reason to give the effort, I guess, is the thing, So it's because obviously effort is one thing we control. Putting yourself into something without doubt, having faith allows you to give more. So that's what I need, right? Um, I need to figure out what I have faith in now as far as training goes. And that's really what we're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of other elements and levels to this, but as far as me finding that and figuring out what that is,
Well,
that's the
so let me
question.
let, well, so let me ask you this, since you brought it up, and I see this a lot as a coach. I see athletes who day in and day out put in effort as part of the process and could care less if they have a race coming up. But then I have other athletes who their effort wanes or drops, or they need extra motivation to raise their effort to a point to where I don't want to say it's relevant, but they can get something in return from it. Because I think that's something that we gotta at least address for a minute, is that, you know, effort is one of those, return on investment type deals. Like, you get out what you put in, and you can put in minimal effort and still feel like you're gaining a little. But is it the effort? Is it true? Are you respecting the ability and the time that you can give, and are you really giving it, or are you being lazy? Are you being lax, or are you disrespect is probably not the right word, but well, maybe it's not. Are you disrespecting the opportunity that you have to be your best and do your best because you're not giving your full effort? Like, you see amateur athletes and professional athletes like that alike. Like, and I don't think it's something you do 24/7, 365, but I think that some athletes have, and some people, because you have to you're a person first. There are a lot of people out there who have to have a race on the calendar to feel like that's why they have to put in effort. But then, like I said, I have some athletes who, their races is just a pin drop on the course of an entire year.
Hmm.
But every day, no matter what, they wake up, they get the work done, because I feel like once you've done it, or once you've reached that point where you love the effort of what the process asks from you, or vice versa, that it's become a fabric of who you are, and without it you feel, I don't want to say incomplete, but you just don't like it. You've become very comfortable and confident with waking up every day, doing the work, being a part of something bigger, and feeling that return of, I feel good about myself, I feel healthy, and I'm proud of myself. Like, I think effort again is one of those things where we always like to chase times, we always like to chase goals or podiums or PRs or whatever, but most people will tell you that one of the prouder moments of their life, not of the after their lives probably, but of their triathlon journey or experience is that one race, that one workout where they're really proud of the effort that they put in, that they,
Yeah.
or if a trainee, like, I'm just really proud of I really worked hard today. Because in life, the easiest days are the ones you don't remember. Like, dude, I remember, man, last May the 12th, I woke up, there was no stress, my day was super easy, and I went to bed at 8 o'clock and slept through the night, and it was great. No, you remember the days that you had to work so hard just to get by. Not just because it's painful or it was traumatic even, but because you got to show what you have inside. That you have this thing inside of you that, for some people, I think it's harder to bring out or believe that they have. And I think, and I work with a lot of athletes who oftentimes struggle with believing in themselves or not thinking they're good enough. And like, again, there's so many things that we take on, as because most people listen to podcasts are adults, that we take on from our childhood, through the way we were brought up, through, traumatic events or experiences, or how we were raised, or, the life that we've had. So we have these thoughts or feelings about ourselves, but it's the effort that we put in that shows that we have it, that we can do it, that we're not a sum of a result, but what we are is an expression of our effort. And that if we can give our best and do our best, then that's how we're fulfilled, not by some digital, time that's spit out when you cross the finish line, but how hard did you try? Or did you mail it in? Did you try hard? Did you do your best? And if you did, one of the best things you can do, I think, is work back through that and figure out why. What was it that made you not quit today? What is it that made you want to just, because there have been plenty of days where I've given shit effort. I've just, in races and training, I think we've all done it, that you just wasn't totally there. But if you look back on the times that you've been your most successful with your effort, that you were most proud of of battling those, or going through those mental battles and winning, or those emotional battles and winning, how did you get, how did you stay on top? How did you get through it? Because those are the lessons you need to apply going forward, because it's not the easy days where you need them, but you got to have them, and you got to keep them sharp, and you got to be able to utilize them when it matters most, and that's could be any day this week.
It's so interesting you bring that childhood thing up again because it all sort of fits with me right now when you're saying that. Because frankly, my dad was pretty lazy. And, you just kind of get stuff from your parents. And my mom is a hard worker and she's always doing something. So I have this kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing going on sometimes. And I wonder if, I spent a lot of time with my dad. And of course, he was, kind of in the bed for a long time and wasn't really moving around and going through a lot of stuff. And I don't know, man. I'm not blaming it. I'm just like you said. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I do feel like in a lot of ways, I suffer from some guilt, and a lot of it is because I feel like I occasionally do disrespect my abilities.
Hmm.
And frankly, I've felt like that for a long time. I felt like that as a college athlete, and I think there was a while in my 30s there where I was playing a lot of competitive softball. I worked really hard at that, and it was when I kind of joke about it and people laugh at softball, but we did have some real competitive stuff going on there, and that was the time when I was removed from baseball finally, and I really worked on my own above and beyond what the games were, or some simple little practices or whatever. I really worked at it, and it pays off. It was work when the lights went off, and it was behind the scenes, and it was on my own, and just little things like that. And I remember that vividly. I was like, man, I'm kind of reaching my potential here, and it felt really good. It's just how I think a lot of it had to do with that I really was enjoying it at the time.
Hmm.
And like you said, I think that's always so fascinating that you have athletes that can pin drop a race, and that's really even not. That's just another day almost to them, and they get the thrill out of getting up and getting on a trainer or in the winter running treadmill or whatever. It doesn't, of course, running outside and riding outside is always more enjoyable, but they doesn't matter to them. It seems like that there's a process in mind, and it's just, frankly, falling in love with movement. And I've always marveled at people like that. It just has never really been in my DNA. Occasionally, I am kind of a race guy, because what usually happens to me, and you've seen it many times, is that 2 to 3 months out from the races, and I'm like, okay, I better flip this switch or it's going to be ugly, you
Yep.
know. And that's the weird part, because I it's like I do enjoy it, right? But there has to be a carrot or something like that. And I think a lot of people probably struggle with this too on some level. But when there is a carrot, there's a kind of this double-edged sword of like, oh, I feel like I have to do it then.
Right.
So, that's sort of, in a nutshell, where I struggle. And, we can talk about this too, but I think when I get to that point when I'm like flipping that switch, then I'm pretty good at being mindful. And that's the next thing, is this mindfulness. And I think I'm really good once I get in the zone about appreciating, because we talk about things like, just running with breath instead
Mm-hmm.
of music, and really being in that moment, being in one stride to the next instead of worrying about the finish line. We've talked about how, even Ironman racing is a really good place to get an example of this, because when you're on that second loop of that marathon, it's really hard to think about anything else except what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty good at that, even in training. And once you get me past this sort of wall of why am I doing this, and I get out there, then it's all about not worrying about anything except what you're doing. And that's mindfulness.
Well, you can't if you're not listening, you can't adjust. And I think that's like one of the biggest reasons that a lot of athletes struggle or fail to really understand their body come race day is that they spend every millisecond of their training staring at their damn watch for something. What's my heart rate? What's my pace? What's my time? What's my this? And you're like, you're not being, you're there is no mindfulness, because you're looking for a result every millisecond of every 100 meters of your run or every 30 seconds of your ride. You're looking for a result. You're
Hmm.
not listening. You're not feeling none of it. You're just looking. And I think especially when it comes to long course racing, 70.3s. I mean, well, any level of racing, if you have to be able to listen to your body. You have to know it, and to know it and to listen to it, you have to be mindful. You can't be somewhere else. You can't be expecting one thing and adjusting based on what you don't see. You have to be able to adjust by what you're feeling. Do you have more or do you not have more? Can you push or can you not push? Is it too early? How is your nutrition? How is your body feeling? You have to be aware of so many things, especially when you're doing like 70.3s or Ironman. It's like, how do I feel right now? How have I been doing the last 30 minutes, and how is that going to impact what I need to do or what I need to change, or how do I need to address and focus for the next 30? If you're only worried about what a result is spitting out of you every 2 seconds, you have no idea how to govern effort and feel, then you're going to be numb. And that gets so many people in trouble. Like, and listen, you have to have a plan when you go into races. But that plan needs to be based on executing an effort and paying attention. It can't just be based on, I have to stay at this or until they blow up. Like, that was one of the things I found was fascinating about watching and again, I understand that the goal and the race format and what you're going for, like the Olympic trials, was, you have to play the top three. So so if you don't make the top three, it's basically who cares, right? So, but you watch so many people, and there were so many, like, you might consider upsets, but watching how little so many of them looked at their watches, and they ran, and I think the girl who got second for the women, Seidel or Seidel, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. It was her first marathon, and so her second one's gonna be at the Olympics. But I think one of her quotes was like, "My only goal for today was to run as hard as I could and not be afraid." All those are feelings. All those are efforts. Like there wasn't in there. I don't think she like didn't look at her watch one time. But I think that you have to be in the. You have to learn how to be in the moment and how to navigate those feelings that are good and are bad. And we live in a society now where it's just been that you're basically taught or wired or um, pushed to not have any of those. You got to stick to the numbers. You got to stick this. You got to be able to do it. You have to. This is the number I'm giving you. Another coach like that. This is the number I'm giving you. Got to do it. Like none of that. First, I don't think it's the right way, but you have to work with your athletes and you have to help teach them that they need to listen to themselves, even if they don't want to. They have to figure out how to navigate and be mindful of what their body is telling them, because if you can't do that or if you won't do that, then you're never going to reach, you're never going to have every opportunity that you're given result in something that you can learn from. Because when you go to these races or you go into training and you marry yourself to a number, like a lot of athletes do this when they go on, like, they put in ERG mode on the trainer and it spits out an exact number. And if they don't have it that day, then the workout's over and they're done. They made it through like 2 intervals of 10. Then, hey, bye, see you later. You failed today. No, you didn't. You didn't fail physically. You just failed to adjust and figure out and listen to your body who you really were today. And I think that comes with time, but I also think it comes with practice to be mindful and to listen to yourself. And if you want to really understand what your body is thinking and feeling and listen to that, like you can't listen to so many things at once, but you have to just be aware. Like that's another thing that some of these longer trail runs have been teaching me, is that like you have to always, not just the terrain, but also like you have to manage it all. And I can't manage it all if I'm listening to music and getting hopped up in the music, because just like like reading a book and not paying attention, like you make it through like 5 pages and you're like, all right, what did I watch? I got to go back and listen. Or you're watching like a movie or a series on Netflix and you get to playing on your phone and 10 minutes goes by and you're like, ah, crap, I got to rewind this. I have no idea what happened. I got distracted. And what I've been learning even more is that I have to I have to always pay attention to what I'm feeling and also what I'm thinking. Are these good thoughts, these bad thoughts? Have I been taking in my nutrition? Am I on my feeling plan? If I'm not, how do I need to adjust these next 30 minutes? You have to be aware. And I think you have to think through, because if you get lost in just zoning out, and you see athletes, or I read it in Training Peaks, you're like, you know what? I just got bored. Or I lost focus or I didn't hit this interval well and my power dropped because I was on my trainer and I was just scrolling through Facebook. That's the opposite of mindfulness. That is mental laziness. That is being afraid of being in the moment and paying attention, but I get it. It's hard. We all pull for our phone or we all pull for something else to just scroll through mindlessly, some social media thing for half people we didn't even care about or know. But we have idle time to think, and God forbid we do that, because then we might have to like go through constructive things. Let's just go find a meme to share. Like it takes time and it takes effort and it's hard and it takes energy, but you learn so much more about yourself and about what you're going through when you just flat out pay attention. But that's the opposite of what we have now with inner training, as I like to call it, where you want to be distracted 24/7 and then you just can't understand why. When you head out to race and you get on the race course and there's so many things going on, oh my God, there's 2,000 more people and I'm not swimming in a pool that's perfect, and I'm not on my bike in my little pain cave with no one around me. And oh my God, these virtual racers are now real and I have to make adjustments and do things. And wait a minute, and not only do I have to steer and like navigate and make turns and adjust and have to shift on my own now too, but oh my God, now I have to like feel to maintain this certain power. I thought it was just automatic. And then you get out on the run, you're like, I got to feel like it's like that. All that stuff is mental energy. If you don't think that's mental energy, and you don't think that mental energy has an effect on your race and has an effect on your ability to perform well, then you're wrong.
Ooh,
Sorry, man. That was like the opposite of mindfulness.
that was the
Sorry,
mindfulness
man.
section.
I
But
got
it's
like
really
way into.
important, dude. Yeah, I mean, that's what. I just don't think that when you're always stimulating yourself that much that it's sustainable. I think that's where I get into problems too sometimes, is that I'm looking for that pick me up, that jack me up, and that it's sort of this no pain, no gain philosophy, which works in the short term. And I think there's some value to sucking it up and digging deep and quote unquote beast mode type thinking. It's like, but the real part is like, how do you create long-term sustainable energy? And that's by listening. And I think that is by sorting things out and allowing your body to adapt and adjust and overcome things that you're typically struggle with. And just as an example, when I do this meditation group, he kind of sets the tone and sets our mindfulness, and then we sit for 30 minutes, nothing going on except breathing. And I don't want to challenge, but I mean, I would suggest that anybody try something like that, because then you start thinking about, oh wow, how it's like a story I read about this guy who went and he was a punk rock guy, and he was all jacked up and but he just felt something was off, and this guy went and joined a monastery, right? And he went there and he said that he had saved up like $25,000, went to India, and he was like, uh, I'm sure I'm going to go over here and this guru is going to say, I want your $25,000 or whatever like that. And he got there and he saw the monks were just walking around, and there was nothing there. He said they had nothing in their lives. And he was like, they don't want my money. He's like, I want what they have, because they're happy in the simplest sense. And this is what's so fascinating to me. And this is why I think it's so translatable to me as far as racing, because when you're on the course, there is really nothing there. But if you're happy and content and in a good place with that I think that helps you race better. That's the reason why I bring these things into this play, as like he was saying, is like they had nothing, and the interviewer was like, what did you do? And he goes, well, we had to find energy and joy and happiness in the simplest things. And that's what I love about running. And when you get out there like you did on the mountain, I mean, it's like your energy, where does that even come from? You're just letting it flow through you, really. Um, anyway, but
Well,
then
it
you want to
was
move on? Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, it was that, but there was this moment where I remember I was coming, the snow was like really coming down, and the wind was like in my face, and I was going like this like 2 mile downhill stretch where it was like really like hard to see, because it was just like big snowflake. I didn't have any like sunglasses on, obviously, and it was just like pounding. It was like it was really hard to see, and I remember like going down. I remember smiling like 4, 5, or 6 times, because I was like, these are the moments that we oftentimes pass up on or ignore or aren't paying attention to because we're worried about being distracted with something meaningless. And it was just nice. And I mean, I don't know really how, means or how to describe it, but it was one of those things where I was really, really happy that I was where I was at that moment and in the moment, um, not somewhere else. And I think that oftentimes we don't pay enough attention to that, or don't pay ourselves that respect in understanding where we are at every minute on this planet, and the opportunities that we're given, and how so many times we miss out on it because we're so worried about being distracted from being present that we really miss out on those opportunities.
Hmm. That's a really good example of focus, really, because it's like if you're mindful, focus arises naturally out of mindfulness. You know, it's one pointed attention. I think a lot of people think of focus and they're like, you need to focus. And the first image you have is like squeezing your brain together and squinting and like zoning in on it. But really, it's just about paying attention. And once you're in that place of mindfulness, that focus grows naturally. And it sounds like you're just focused on what you had to do right there. And that's the thing about it, right? That's what's so beautiful to me about this kind of path, is that if you just allow yourself to be where you're at and get used to that, then you can take it to a focus level without trying.
It's that later on I was talking about, going into like your flow state. And
Hmm.
I see a lot of athletes go through that in, like, usually if I have an athlete like that's generally comments a lot, and they go what I call going dark for like 2 or 3 days, like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, how's it going? They're like, I'm just going, I'm doing good, just doing the work. That is the groove. That is like the flow state to where your work, your training, your sessions, the goals you have, they're no longer a chore. They're now just a part of what you do because you're so focused and so dialed in. Training isn't, because I think going back to, having to have a race, like some people have to have a distraction to just pay attention, to dial things in. And I think people use races as distractions all the time. Like life is really crappy and things are going crazy. You know what I need? I need a distraction just to distract me from all the other distractions and in life, to give me something to focus on. And when you're really dialed in and when you're really focused, and you see like some of the most consistent, better performing athletes, and I don't mean performing by their result, I mean performing by reaching their potential by the consistency in the work that they've given, is that they get in those zones of like, this is just the work, man. It's not it's not, and they rarely use like this, like, these Facebook worthy adjectives, like, in phrases like, I am crushing it right now, or I am doing our PR baby, or like this, just like, yeah, it is what it is. And that's the reason why it's good. This session, it was meh. It was good. I mean, I did it. I felt, but they feel this level of contentment and enjoying it because it's now become a part of who they are, and it's now become of what you do and who you are. It's no longer about a result that defines you, it now is you. And that might seem like way too deep, but a lot of us get into this to figure things out about ourselves, and you can't. And that's, I think, again, going back to what effort is, effort teaches us about who we are and what we can give in the darkest times and the hardest times. Like, I was having this conversation with Allie last night about a project that you and I are working on with someone else. Is like, I was like, yeah, I kind of honestly, like, sometimes I like, or she was like, why would you want to go back and work through that? And I said, well, I think a lot of people shy away from the hardest times in their lives because they're either disappointed of it, or they're ashamed of it, or they have a lot of guilt from it. And I don't think it's something you should do daily. But I think when you've been able to focus your life in a different direction or a different path, or you've come from, people for sometimes forget, and we've talked about you before, like, you forget how far you've come, with your training. Like, you were training for a 5K just to get off the couch, and now you're now you've done all these Ironman, all these this crazy incredible things. We forget that. So I think there is a healthy time to revisit those hard times, because what it does, if you've worked and you put forth the effort in, and you've had faith in yourself, and you've been mindful, and you're being present, then you can be aware of, did I've been there, and now I'm here. And I think it reminds you that you can go through and do anything once you put your mind to it. Like, you don't want to revisit, terrible things that have had this crippling effect on you that you can't get out from underneath. I don't, I'm not like, I'm not advocating that. But in the simple, like, in the most, like, superficial terms, like, you go through training and you have these really, really bad days. Like, when athletes have these really, really bad days in training, I always tell them, these are the days, and they're able to make it through the workout. They're able to rally, and they're able to get it done. These are the days that are also oftentimes common. Like, this is the day you'll remember. When you show up to the start line, and you're on your way driving to your race destination, or you're on the bike and something happens, you're gonna revolve back to the hardest times, the most difficult sessions, the days when life threw everything at you, but you had the focus to get it done. You're not going to fall back on the perfect 50-degree day with no life stressors, and you woke up on time and had perfect sleep to run your easy 35 minutes out the door with your perfect 9:20 pace. Nuh-uh. You're going to remember that long run, of that long ride where you woke up not feeling it and you weren't sure you could do it, but you got out, and after 2.5 hours, or an hour and a half, you thought, I got it. And I'm so glad that I focused enough to get here, because most people don't. They have hard times, they have hard days, they have to be stressed, and any inconvenience, any obstacle, any event that doesn't fall within what they deem as perfect or ideal is now an interference on what they're able to focus on, and everything else is just gone. So I think revisiting those times that you were able to display a focus, or be so dialed in, or in that flow state, or in that groove, like, those are the things you want to have in your toolbox. That's the ammo you need every day you wake up to think, I can do this, because you know what? I've done it. Not only have I done it, not only have I if I hit these sessions, not only have I been this consistent, but I've overcome more. Been there, done that, I can do it again.
Yeah, you get, and I mean, this kind of naturally went into this fifth thing of wisdom. It's like with you, you've shared your stories about, recovery and stuff like that. And that's wisdom, right? That's helped. I know a lot of people. We've heard a lot of that. And I went through this phase where I was lost, and I started to get in and got back in shape and did the 5K and did the Ironman. And it happens often. Like people, even from back home or whatever, I'll see them post their split screens, like 280 pounds down to 190 or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
gotten running, whatever, like that. And I always reach out and say, man, hey, and like I don't even really, it's the Facebook people you're from high school that were a few years behind you. You didn't really know them or whatever, but just
Right.
kind of know them. So I'll be like, hey, that's awesome, man. I'm really proud of it. And they'll like respond with, hey, yeah, I saw what you're doing, and we never even talked. They just kind of saw what was going on, and that's to me is sort of like that wisdom piece. I'll never forget. I mean, you talk about days, right? That one day that you remember. It was that first race you went to with me, man, that Knoxville race. And
Oh,
I've talked
God.
about it a million times, dude, but we were
That was the
driving over there.
toughest spectating race I've ever been to.
Yeah. It was an Olympic race over in Knoxville, the old Rev 3, and we drove over. Remember, it was, I looked at how you look at the weather, and it was 3 days, and it said rain 100% through
Mm-hmm.
every
Yeah,
day. So we
that's
drove
every
over on
time.
Friday, and it rained all day Saturday, and then it was freezing cold. Like we woke up race
Dude, it was
morning.
so cold, man. It was so cold.
I mean, it was race time. I think it was 50 degrees, and it was raining, and the water temp was 53 degrees. And it was like my first Olympic with you, and to go through that, and I recognized it at the time, actually. It was just absolutely a nightmare. But to go through that really set the tone. I mean, and it kind of wraps around back to the beginning of how, that was the 'cause we were talking about, we knew a lot of people had just kind of bagged that race.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we were talking about that. You said, yeah, they're just not going to do it. It's just miserable. Why do it or whatever? But the point is, you got to do it. That's when the experience lies. That's where the wisdom lies. It's like to go through that changed my whole triathlon career. I really believe that because there's never a situation really where I'm afraid of the weather. I mean, I'm sure it could get worse, and I'm sure people have had worse, but for me, that is like, oh, I can do this. And that's again back to the faith piece. I am not I'm not intimidated by weather situations. It's just not a thing. In fact, because of that in some ways, and I actually had a decent race, um, I kind of look for it sometimes. You know that with me. It's like, I hope it rains on the bike because that's like one of my things. And I know it affects a lot of people, and I'm sorry, but it doesn't affect me. So I like it. And I think that gives me a little bit of advantage. But again, wisdom is found through action and going through things. I mean, you can read and learn a lot, but I think actually feeling it is what makes the difference.
You don't learn any of that from giving up or mailing it in or and that's we're neither one of us are advocating making stupid decisions that will compromise something that you're trying to really go for. But we all have these days and these times where we learn a lot, and you put yourself in a circumstance, or you're part of it, you get the opportunity to be a part of an experience that's going to challenge you. But we don't like to be challenged. Like, that's so many people think, oh, I love the challenge, man. Then like one thing goes wrong, they're like, oh God, like swims canceled. Okay, so now your race is like, significantly easier with less than 2.4 miles. And it's like the world is now over. And if anything, if there's a hiccup of any fashion, oh, there was this headwind and this my rear derailleur was like crackling. You're like, yeah, so what? Like, if you want a challenge and you sign up for these races, then expect one thing. Expect nothing to go the way that you think, and expect to be challenged the entire day. None of it's going to be perfect. And if you have one of those days, you have one of those experiences where because I had one. I had one at Ironman Arizona. I don't know how many years ago. It's like 10 years now, forever. That I
At
had,
least.
yeah, I had the perfect day. I had it. And I remember thinking of it, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to have these again. Yeah, never happened again. But it was the perfect day. I nailed my nutrition. I ran awesome. Everything was, weather was perfect. Everything was perfect. Um, which is odd because the rest of my life was a total shit show at that point. But like you just never have them. So if you're looking for challenges, expect challenges. And if you're looking for challenges and you're expecting challenges, then train like you're gonna be ready for them, and stop waiting for the every day that's 60 and sunny, or for everything to be perfect, or it was sprinkling rain today so I couldn't do my workout, or my direct drive trainer wasn't working so I just bagged it, and like just or I had to wait 10 minutes to get in the pool today and then I had to share a lane with somebody. Oh my god. And then you're about to go share an entire gigantic body of water with 2,500 people and your panties in a rod because you had to share a lane with two people for like 10 minutes. Life is challenging, training is challenging, triathlon is challenging. It's all going to be hard. So the more you can, I don't want to say callous yourself, but yeah, to an extent, callous yourself to be resilient, to show that focus and to have that, and to gain that wisdom through experience, then like you said, when you have those, you're like, been there. You might not have been there and seen it and done it because it might be new, but that feeling of being uncomfortable or not having things go your way, or being ready and able to think on your feet and make decisions that are confident, not ones that are made in like you're being scared of it, like that's the wisdom that you want. And you only gain that through experiences, and you don't gain it through the sunshiny days or rainbows. You gain it through the dark days and the hard times that bring you to become whatever you are today. And that's the wisdom that you need. Like that a lot of open, oh, you're so wise. How did you learn all this? Like, what did you, well, it was this, this really bright sunny day back in 1994 where I just sitting underneath a pretty sunshiny sky with a picnic basket, and puppies were frolicking in the distance. And it was just then that I came to this realization that now I can do all these things. No, it's through all the tough shit that we all go through that you learn and become what you are. And that's what brings the wisdom that you need, whether it's life or it's training, racing, whatever it is, not to just to be what you want to do, but become who you can be.
Very well said, man.
I've been very preachy today, and I apologize for that. I don't know why. It's like I'm yeah. Well, happy Monday.
Hey, we don't have the answers. We're just throwing things out there, man.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I definitely don't have all the answers. It's probably because right now our 3-year-old basically listens to absolutely zero things that we have to say, even if I try to articulate it like really well. So this is an opportunity to me to feel like somebody's going to listen to me today, and I can get out all these frustrations of being a parent and let that loose, because I could have like one sentence come out of my mouth and he's like, yeah, distracted and like gone somewhere else. I'm like, I just gotta just pay attention to me for like 1 minute. Oh, but that's it. That's all I got today.
all right, everybody. Well,
Thank
thanks for listening, for letting us go through some of our stuff here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, apologize for the C26 pulpit experience today. But hey, we talk through it all. We give it all. We deliver it. And we really we like to talk through things. And if there's if you found any benefit, we maybe not triathlon related, but training related, because so much of what we do and who we are and how we train and how we approach things, it's mental and emotional. It's there are very few times, like when I work with athletes, and those of you who are listening that are self-coached, like this, like it's not the days where you like, because most athletes, if they have like a little niggle or they're not feeling that great physically, if as long as they're mentally and emotionally there, they're like, oh, I'm gonna power through, baby. But on the days where your body feels 100% and it could ride through a wall or run up a mountain or swim the English Channel, if you had a mentally and emotionally taxing day, or you just don't have it, or you feel defeated, or you're being your worst self-critic, then those are the days you're like, I don't have it today. So the mental and emotional aspect of training is there. It's incredibly important. It is one of those that I know most podcasts tend to not discuss, because I think it takes a certain level of vulnerability and sharing your own experiences and what you're going through, and acknowledging and talking the fact that you don't know it all and that you've gone through these things and the hard times. But that's that's why we have some occasional wisdom, and hopefully we were to share some of that today. And if you have any questions or thoughts about, hey, really anything, and you want to reach out to Mike, you can hit him up directly, crushingiron@gmail.com, or if you want to email me directly, you can contact me at c26coach@gmail.com. Our website with all things coaching, camps, and community, that is c26triathlon.com.
All right, buddy.
All right, I'm going to go pass out communion.
All right, I appreciate it, man. I enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you soon, man.
All right, see you, man.